The story begins in the Hassinat kingdom, on the Arfia continent. On the outskirts of the kingdom, deep within a sunlit forest, a tense chase was unfolding. A girl in a red cloak flees desperately through the woods. A heavily armored knight on horseback relentlessly pursues her. Stomp! Her escape is cut short as someone steps in her path. Plop! Exhausted and defeated, she collapses to the ground. She realizes she's surrounded by the Holy Knights of Hassinat, an enemy nation. The knights sense strong demonic energy emanating from the cowering girl. The knights assume she must be a witch for running, but one of them is told to wait. A distinguished man with white hair and a formal suit arrives on the scene. He stares intently at the situation before him. The girl in the red cloak looks up in shock, recognizing the man. The man with white hair declares that the girl is not a witch, merely a human emitting demonic energy. He introduces himself as Oheniel Devich, captain of the Holy Knights, and offers to cleanse her. The narrative explains that Arfia is a vast continent, where mystifying forces and various species coexist. This world is home to powerful mages and valiant knights. On this continent, the Hassinat kingdom represents the forces of light. In opposition, the Modith kingdom represents the forces of darkness. A cloaked figure embodies the grim determination of the Dark Kingdom. A never-ending war between the two nations has brought great suffering to the people. The climax of this conflict was the battle between the strongest forces of light and darkness. Oheniel Devich clashes swords with a powerful silver-haired woman. Their devastating fight ultimately resulted in the tragic destruction of Arfia. The catastrophic power of their battle leaves only ruin in its wake. However, this epic tale is revealed to be the plot of a novel called The Legend of Arfia. A young woman named Shelanne narrates her lonely life as a timid orphan with no friends. Grunt, loving to read, Shelanne went to the library, struggling to reach a book on a high shelf. Grab. Suddenly, another hand reaches over hers and takes the book down. A kind man with long, dark hair hands her the book, and she thanks him shyly. Reading in bed, Shelanne is captivated by the unfamiliar book, nearing its end. Devastated by the book's shocking ending, her weak heart gives out, and she collapses. She passed out the moment she finished the final page. Time passes as she lies unconscious, surrounded by roses and thorns. When Shelanne finally opens her eyes, she sees a magical light emanating from the open book. She awakens as a small child in a desolate landscape, confused and afraid. Stand. She gets to her feet, wondering if this is all just a dream. Peeking from behind a rock, she feels a strange sense of familiarity with the eerie place. She takes in the scorched earth under a dark red sky. Horrified, she realizes she clutches herself in despair, wondering how she can possibly survive. Suddenly, she gasps as she senses she is no longer alone. Wish? A mysterious man with white hair appears before her. Whoosh! The imposing man in a dark cape towers over her against the blood-red sky. The white-haired man continues his silent, piercing gaze. His crimson eyes seem to look right through her. He notices her radiant blonde hair, which sparkles and twinkles like a field of flowers. Her radiant hair reminds him of the golden, shimmering color of honey. Trembling, she silently begs him to leave her alone, but he only murmurs that she looks sweet. Grab. He takes a strand of her hair, leaving her to tearfully wonder what he meant. Nom. To her utter shock, he puts the strand in his mouth as she inwardly screams that she isn't food. He scowls in disappointment, finding the hair completely flavorless. He gazes at her, realizing her hair possesses the brilliant color of the sun. Flash. His mind drifts to the past, recalling that the sun is the source of all warm light and life. He remembers a time in his youth when he desperately longed to grow roses. Droop. But in a world without sun, every rose he planted inevitably withered and died. Now, however, he smells a sweet, rosy fragrance from this girl who reminds him of the sun. Cold. He asks for her name and her parents, and she nervously admits she is an orphan. Panic. She manages to stammer out her name. Shelanne. He looks at her with a curious expression and suddenly decides he'll raise her. Dangle! He lifts her into his arms, and she panics, shocked at his declaration. He assumes she must have lost her parents in the war. Declaring the battlefield too dangerous, he decides to take her, musing that she'll be easier to raise than roses. Taken against her will, Shelanne realizes her only chance of survival is to run away. Droop. But carried along helplessly, she despairs over how to escape in such a tiny body. Caw. They arrive at a grim castle, and she realizes she is in Modith, the land of darkness. He carries her through a desolate land of skulls, home only to dark sorcerers and spirits. He declares this hellish place her new home, and she recoils in pure horror. Wish. As bats fly overhead, she silently screams for someone to save her. After arriving at the palace, he left her alone in a tower and disappeared. But to her relief, nothing happened, and she started to believe she had worried for nothing. Doom. She sits at a table with two sinister figures, staring at a plate of stinky, foul-looking goop. Flinch. She recalls the book only mentioned that scary people lived in Modith. Shake. Beside her, a menacing crone stirs a red potion, confirming her fear of dark sorcerers. Stiff. Another sorcerer appears on her other side with a bowl of blue liquid, and she freezes in terror. Wow! Overwhelmed, she bursts into tears, insisting she's not hungry and is perfectly fine. Sigh. Realizing she can't endure this any longer, she resolves to escape. Step, step. She watches and waits as armored guards patrol the hall outside her room. Sneak. The moment the coast is clear, she seizes her chance and tiptoes out. As she tiptoes down the hall, she and a small ghost startle one another. Ah! Smack! Panicking, she turns and runs right into something. The commotion alerts a guard, a skeleton, and the sorceress, who all look over in surprise. Dash! She frantically scrambles past the chaotic assembly, crying for help. Bump! Her desperate flight ends as she collides with a young boy who tells her to watch out. She looks up, stunned that she ran into someone in a place that suddenly seems full of flowers. Smile. The boy kindly reassures her, asking why she wandered out of her room. Still on the floor, Shelanne simply stares, wondering who this new person is. The boy turns to someone unseen and questions Carlton about the wisdom of raising a wild child in the castle. Swish! The white-haired man, Carlton, appears, looking down as the boy watches him with concern. Falter. The name Carlton sounds familiar, and Shelanne struggles to remember where she's heard it. Reach. Carlton extends his hand toward Shelanne. He explains to the boy that her small size will make her easy to raise, vowing to show that beautiful creatures can exist in Modith. FWIP. Carlton holds Shelanne proudly while the other boy looks on, completely bewildered. Plop. He then demonstrates his point by placing her directly into an empty flower pot. Chills. He picks up a watering can and cheerfully suggests he can just water her, leaving everyone stunned. The boy screams, "Stop," insisting it's wrong to water a person, while Shelanne panics, thinking Carlton is nuts. Holding Shelanne's hand, the boy explains that she is a person, not a plant, and that people are harder to raise. He suggests she'd be happier in the land of light, and kindly offers her a piece of candy. Wow, overjoyed, Cheyenne realizes it's candy, and she finally has something edible to eat. Oh no. She happily savors the delicious treat, while the boy worries she might wither like a rose in sunless Modith. Chills. Unmoved, Carlton watches them and stubbornly declares that he's raising her because she's cute. Glisten, glimmer. His eyes sparkle with resolve as the boy sighs, defeated, calling him impossible. Flutter. The narration affirms that creatures requiring sunlight cannot survive in the grim land of Modith. Float. At the dining table, Shelanne and the boys are joined by a floating ghost servant. Glance. The ghost serves Shelanne her meal, and she looks on with apprehension. Doom. The cover is lifted to reveal a grotesque meal, and she recoils with a disgusted bleh. Carlton asks why she isn't eating, and the boy suggests it might not be for children, while Shelanne thinks it's not fit for humans. Stinky. Not wanting to starve, she forces herself to take a bite. Munch. Shine. Her eyes fly open in sudden, wide-eyed surprise. She admits the food tastes much better than it looks, and the boy smiles, encouraging her to eat up. The boy casually mentions hearing that the front lines have reached a truce. Dab dab. Wiping his mouth, Carlton addresses the boy as Theo, and asks about a task he assigned him. Theo confirms that everything is set, and asks how many of Hassinat's holy knights have withdrawn. Shelanne listens, her fears confirmed. They're discussing the war from the novel and wishing to extend their dark influence. Frown. She laments their ignorance of the war's futile end, as Theo confronts Carlton about using the dangerous Darkbone. Carlton dismisses his concern, telling him to relax, but the words dark bone strike fear into Shelanne. She remembers the novel's tragic ending, where the strongest characters fought and destroyed most of Arfia. The fierce battle was all for nothing, as no one ultimately benefited from the destruction. Done. Her heart hammers with the horrifying realization that this world is doomed to end in a few years. She recalls the novel's protagonist, Ohinio, the problematic captain of the Holy Knights of Hassinat. And the other problematic character, a dark, hooded figure of immense power. She remembers he possesses the power of the Darkbone and is the Demon King of Modith. With a gasp of recognition, she points at Carlton and exclaims, "It's you." He looks at her, confused. She quickly retracts her statement, saying it was nothing, leaving an awkward silence at the table. Theo smiles kindly and tells her she can return to her room now that she has finished eating. Squeak. The scene shifts to the dark castle towers as night falls. Kaye. Inside a room, a lonely candelabra flickers. Back in her bedroom, Shelanne sits quietly on her bed as a small, whimpering spirit floats beside her. Sigh. She stares out the window into the perpetual twilight, having lost all track of time. She laments that without a sun, she can't even tell what time of day it is. The little ghost spirit offers her a snack, but she politely turns it down. Phew. Sniffle. The sad little ghost floats away as Shelanne sits alone with her thoughts. Cackle. Loom. She thinks back on all the scary people she's met in Modith, including the two sorcerers. Her mind flashes to the menacing helmet of an armored guard. Snicker. Surrounded by unsettling figures, she concludes that absolutely no one here is normal. She recalls their disturbing thoughts about her, from wanting her blood for research to questioning Carlton's obsession. She shudders, remembering even the kind-looking Theo was terrifying, approaching her with a giant needle. She remembers Carlton's bizarre logic, seriously wondering if she would die if he didn't water her. Flap. It's incomprehensible to her that the man destined to destroy the world, Flail, is a complete moron with absolutely no common sense. Anxious, she sits up, realizing the war is escalating and everything will be destroyed. No! The terrifying thought that she will die here makes her scream in despair. The scene transitions with an elegant, sparkling pattern. Sometime later, after a meal, Carlton tells Theo there's something he doesn't understand. Flanked by two confused, cloaked figures, Theo asks Carlton to explain what's bothering him. Carlton hesitates before telling Theo that the thing he doesn't understand is about Shelanne. Droop. He slumps dejectedly, confessing he thinks Shelanne dislikes him, while Theo suggests she might just be scared of him. He thinks back to his desire to be a good father to Shelanne, picturing them walking through a field of flowers. He asks Theo for advice on how to win his new daughter's affection. Clack. Theo sets his cup down, admitting he wouldn't know since he's never had a daughter and Modith has no normal families. He solemnly explains that this is because Modith is the cursed land of darkness. Carlton listens in silence, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. Pop, a chibi version of Theo, suddenly gets a great idea. Theo jokingly suggests visiting a village in Hassinat, then laughs it off, saying Carlton couldn't enter due to the Holy Knights and would terrify the locals. Perk. Theo panics as Carlton gets a devilishly determined look, and he pleads with him not to actually go. The scene shifts to a silent, moonlit city by the water. A baker finishes his work for the day outside his shop. The cheerful baker hangs a closed sign, proud of another productive day. Tap. Loom. A mysterious cloaked figure taps on the shop window as a dark presence looms outside. FWIP. The baker turns around, startled to find the figure has suddenly appeared in front of him. Swish. The cloaked figure, revealed to be Carlton, materializes in a swirl of magical energy. Dark purple energy continues to crackle around Carlton's feet as he stands his ground. Drop. Swoosh. The baker drops his bread in shock, realizing in terror that it's the Demon King. Paralyzed with fear, the baker stares as the menacing form of Carlton appears behind him. The baker screams internally that the Demon King of Modith is here. Whoosh! Surrounded by crackling energy, Carlton confronts the terrified man, calling him a foolish Hassinat human. Tremble. Carlton ominously asks if he has any daughters, and the trembling baker can only stammer in confusion. Off-screen voices shout that they heard a scream and prepare to fight an attack, but Carlton remains unfazed. Fwish. Thud. Overwhelmed by terror, the baker collapses onto the street. Huff. Pont. Two guards rush to the scene, asking the fallen baker what happened. Stammer. The baker explains that the Demon King asked about his daughters, leading the guards to dismiss it as shock-induced nonsense. The scene transitions to the next day, as a white dove soars through a bright, cloudy sky. Gleam. Shine. A dove flies over the sunlit city, as an onlooker wonders what's going on. A woman finds the bakery closed unexpectedly, lamenting that there will be no bread today. Another woman approaches, asking her friend if something happened to the baker. One woman whispers that the Demon King nearly killed the baker, just as the other mentions a child-rearing exchange, which a disguised Carlton overhears. Glance. Carlton, hidden in his cloak, curiously considers the idea of a child-rearing exchange. Zing! He secretly begins casting a magical spell. Swoosh! The spell transforms him into a woman with long white hair, surrounded by a magical aura and roses. A voice calls out, "Excuse me," causing the two women to turn around, startled. Slip. Carlton, now disguised as an elegant woman, lowers his hood and asks about the child-rearing exchange. Step. The two women stare in shock as the mysterious, beautiful woman walks past them. Dazzle. In a dazzling display, Carlton, now in a flowing red dress, asks if he can participate in the exchange. Flutter. Flap. Meanwhile, back at the dark castle in Modith, crows circle the towers. Sleepy. Tired. Unable to tell day from night, a sleep-deprived Shelanne sits up in bed, wondering what schemes are being plotted against her now. Ta-da! Two spirits excitedly present her with a choice of outfits, a cute cat onesie or a frilly princess dress. Carlton appears in her room, telling Shelanne she can choose whatever she wants to wear. Dumbfounded, Cheyenne stares blankly, baffled that he woke her up just to pick an outfit. Chill. Worried about his strange behavior, she impatiently picks an outfit just to get it over with. Lift. Carlton then picks up a comb, his expression unreadable. Loom. Gasp. He approaches her with the comb and she panics, sensing a murderous aura and thinking he's about to stab her. Quiet. Back in the study, Theo works peacefully at his desk. Creak. Hearing the door open, he looks up from his work in surprise. Sparkle. Twinkle. A glamorous image previews Shelanne's adorable new look. Ta-da! Carlton proudly presents a beautifully dressed and styled Shelanne, who is surrounded by a magical illusion of sweets and flowers. Theo sips his tea, complimenting Carlton on what he learned in Hassinat, and admitting he did a better job dressing Shelanne than expected. Over dinner, Carlton explains that to be a good parent, one must master 48 hairstyles, while Shelanne silently concedes he's good with his hands. Theo cheerfully wishes a nervous Shelanne a good morning, and she forces a laugh. Sniffle. Theo feigns disappointment that she chose Carlton's dress over his cat onesie, and Shelanne realizes he was the one with the bizarre taste. Shelanne is stunned that Carlton picked the dress himself, never imagining the future ticking time bomb had such a soft side. Carlton proudly tells Shelanne he went to great trouble to get her milk from Hassinat, as Modith lacks normal drinks. Shelanne suspiciously wonders if he stole it, while Theo asks if he traded their precious poison-like bitter tea, making her flinch. Announcing dinner is over, Carlton says it's time for the next activity, leaving Shelanne to wonder in dread what's coming. Step. The group walks through a desolate, thorny forest at night, led by the large ghost servant. Glance. Shelanne looks around the garden, her expression somber as she notices all the dead flowers. Swish. Surrounded by crackling magic, Carlton looks out over the dead garden with a determined gaze. Swoosh. A memory of a younger Carlton flashes through his mind, recalling his childhood in this very place. He remembers his failed attempt as a boy to make roses bloom, watching sadly as they all died. A determined thought declares that from now on, things will be different. Carlton identifies a spot in the garden as Shelanne, Theo, and the Ghost Watch, with Theo holding a book on child rearing. Grab? He grabs the ghost servant, explaining to Shelanne that he's heard good fathers play with their daughters. Carlton declares that from now on, he will play ball with her every day after breakfast. Shwoom. With a sinister smile, Carlton challenges Shelanne to dodge his magically charged trick ball. Swoosh. He winds up and powerfully throws the glowing ball with dark tendrils of energy. Whoosh! The ball of crackling energy hurtles directly toward the terrified girl. Bang! The ball narrowly misses her and smashes into a tree as she screams, "Ah!" Glint. Convinced he's only pretending to be a good father to kill her, Shelanne resigns herself to her fate. Carlton yells for Shelanne to catch the ball as she stands frozen in terror. Swish. Step. Theo darts in, sweeping Shelanne into his arms to save her just in time. Frown. A genuinely confused Carlton asks her if playing catch isn't fun. Quiver. As Shelanne trembles in his arms, Theo tells Carlton she can't handle playing catch with him. Theo scolds a bewildered Carlton, reminding him Shelanne is a normal person who needs to be played with gently, as the ghost tearfully agrees. Disappointed, Carlton watches them leave, wondering why Shelanne doesn't enjoy playing with him. Hug. After being put down, Shelanne happily embraces the small ghost servant, calling it cute and round. Nuzzle. Cuddle. She cuddles the adorable ghost, playfully asking if it's a plushie in a sheet. Theo explains that the creature is a Lilf, created by the Dark Dragon and often summoned by dark sorcerers. Shelanne turns to find Carlton gone, and Theo guesses he went back to the child-rearing exchange to learn more. Swish. Theo presents a rose, explaining that while Carlton is intimidating, he's trying very hard for her and has never been so enthusiastic. Whoosh. He reveals that Carlton's deepest wish is to make beautiful roses bloom in Modith, bringing it light and life. Theo explains Carlton is risking a trip to an enemy nation just for her, and asks her to give him a chance, admitting they don't know how to raise a normal child. Holding the rose, Shelanne silently reflects on this new, compassionate side of Carlton the Demon King. Whoosh! The scene shifts back to the sunny, coastal city of Hassinat. Sigh. At the child-rearing meeting, the disguised Carlton laments that his daughter dislikes him, and a woman advises him to be patient. Another woman enthusiastically invites Carlene to their next meeting to get advice from a mother of 4. With intense determination, Carlton agrees, thanking her for the invitation. FWIP. As Carlene leaves, the women greet a young man named Jarus, noting his return. Dazzle. Jarus is captivated by the elegant woman walking past, wondering about her identity. Jarus cheerfully tells the women he's been busy with tasks from Captain O'Heniel, who they agree must favor him. The scene transitions back to the ominous dark castle in Modith. Whoosh! Crows fly past Shelanne's bedroom balcony under a dark sky. Back in his room, Carlton's form is enveloped in crackling energy as his transformation wears off. Shwoom. The powerful magic dissipates as he fully reverts to his true form. Stagger. Carlton clutches his chest in pain, weakened from maintaining the disguise. Swish. Deciding he needs medicine from Theo, he moves toward his bed just as Shelanne peeks out from behind the curtains. Click, clack. As he settles into bed, Carlton senses a presence and sharply asks, "Who's there?" Peeking from behind the curtains, Shelanne finds Carlton asleep in her bed, but he is secretly aware of her presence. Wish. She finds herself drawn to his appearance, noticing his long eyelashes. Worried he might be cold, she considers covering him with a blanket. Cover. As she acts on her concern, Carlton feigns sleep, secretly pleased, while Shelanne wonders why the blanket feels so strange. Puffy gaw. She looks down in horror, realizing the puffy blanket is the dress she's still wearing. Lift. In a panic, she lifts the white fabric to confirm her fears. Sparkle. The sparkling dress confirms her horrifying realization, leaving her mortified. Lift. Her resolve crumbles as she peeks under the fabric one more time, just to be sure. Wriggle. Writhe. She lets out a blood-curdling scream as dark, monstrous tentacles writhe out from under her dress. The terror triggers a flashback to her lonely childhood, where a large teddy bear was her only companion. She recalls her younger self's determination to survive the darkness of Modith, no matter what. Wiggle. Loom. The nightmare intensifies as the writhing tentacles now loom over her and the memory of her bear. Scream. The dark tendrils wrap around her face as she screams for them to get away. Whimper. Shelanne wakes from the nightmare to find Carlton, Theo, and the ghost servant at her bedside, asking if she's all right. Carlton touches her forehead, telling her she has a high fever, while Theo tries to reassure her. Dizzy and dazed, she struggles with a faint, horrible memory as Theo explains he's made medicine for her. Jolt. He presents a ghastly, bright blue concoction, which horrifies Shelanne at first sight. Carlton insists she can trust Theo, Modith's best apothecary, but she silently thinks the drink looks lethal. Shriek. She throws a childish tantrum, screaming that she refuses to drink the medicine. Her sudden outburst leaves the ghost servant Theo and Carlton completely stunned. In the cursed land of Modith, constant darkness and curses mean medicine is essential for survival. Its residents frequently suffer from various ailments, making apothecaries like Theo indispensable. For the people of Modith, medicine is one of the most vital necessities of life. Theo muses that while making a cure for her fever is easy, there's another problem. Snicker. He recalls a past incident where a mischievous young Shelanne sabotaged his work by pouring medicine on a plant. He also remembers her faking giving medicine to the Lilf, only to dispose of it secretly. And yet another time, she pretended to trip, accidentally, spilling the potion everywhere. Annoyed, Theo concludes that Shelanne is the trickiest girl in the world, which he finds both frustrating and impressive. Raise. He hands the medicine to a baffled Carlton, suggesting that she might actually take it if her father gives it to her. Stare. Carlton is left holding the medicine, as Theo quickly excuses himself to work on other potions. Clack. Carlton approaches the bed, where Shelanne has hidden herself completely under the covers. He clears his throat, causing her to flinch and whimper that she doesn't want it. Sob. Terrified, she begins to cry, fearing he's going to force the medicine on her again. Grab. To her complete surprise, he grabs a book instead, offering to read her a story if she takes the medicine. Lift. Sitting beside her, he explains that he heard a bedtime story can prevent nightmares like the one she had. Wiggle. Peeking out from her sheets, she's stunned he knew she has nightmares and asks how. Pat. He gently pats her head and simply says he heard her crying. He thoughtfully adds that ever since she arrived, he can hear her crying even in his sleep, calling her a mysterious child. Raise. A strange warmth fills her as she considers that Carlton might be kinder than she thought, making her willing to trust him. Gulp. P2. She chugs the medicine, but spits it out in horror when he cheerfully announces the story's title is Ghosts Under the Bed. He explains it's a boring book for dark sorcerers, which makes it perfect for putting someone to sleep, leaving her to tremble at his absurdity. He then innocently offers other terrifying titles, including How to Clean Corpses and Taming the Skeleton in the Basement, which Shelanne lies in stunned silence, utterly appalled by his ghoulish taste in bedtime stories. Doze. She glances over to see that he fell asleep just from listing the book titles, and she can only think he's a total weirdo. Whoosh! The scene shifts back to Theo, who's hard at work in his lab. He holds up a sparkling pink potion, proudly declaring his special medicine for Shelanne is complete. Clunk. He confidently enters Shelanne's room to give her the new medicine. He stops dead in his tracks, utterly confused by what he sees. Seeing Carlton and Shelanne sleeping peacefully together, he feels a pang of jealousy at being left out. Caw. Caw. In the cursed kingdom of Modith, where night is eternal, dark spirits are born and nourished by the endless darkness. Wish. A small, lonely spirit, the Lilf, drifts through the desolate landscape, crying softly. Smack. A larger, more aggressive spirit attacks the defenseless Lilf, which lets out a terrified scream. Shwoom. Elsewhere, a powerful captain from the rival Hassinat kingdom declares that the war with Modith will last forever. His soldiers, having scouted the dark territory, decide they must return to report their findings to Captain O'Heniel. Step. As they walk, a giant, menacing crow, a spirit of Modith, watches them pass. Stare. Doom. A hooded sorceress in Modith uses a scrying mirror to observe the soldiers, grimly concluding that one side must be annihilated to end the war. The scene returns to the castle, where an elder explains to Carlton and the others that wandering spirits must form pacts or they will harm the citizens. The elder continues, suggesting they must discover the origin of the war to end it, as Shelanne listens in silence. Shelanne, however, is lost in her own thoughts, wondering about the war but mostly dreading the nauseating medicine she has to take. Pour. In a quick flashback, a younger Shelanne seizes an opportunity to pour her foul-tasting medicine into the Lilf's mouth. Glare. A furious Theo catches her in the act, startling her with a sharp call of her name. In a cute illustration, he sternly scolds the wailing girl for giving her medicine to the poor ghost servant. Back in the present, Chalaya grabs Carlton's cloak and hides behind him, complaining to Theo that his medicine tastes awful. A warm, surprised feeling spreads through Carlton as he realizes Shelanne is hugging him for protection. Touched, he looks on as Shelanne cries that she won't take the medicine, while Theo insists that she must. In a cute chibi form with horns, Carlton defiantly says no, proudly announcing that Shelanne is hiding with him. Raged Theo grows furious, asking Carlton if he's really taking her side in this. Sigh. With a defeated sigh, Theo crosses his arms, realizing he'll have to try another approach. FWIP. He turns and leaves, announcing he'll just have to make a medicine that Shelanne will actually like. Flinch. Hidden under the cloak, Shelanne sighs with relief, but then a sudden chill of realization runs through her. Twinkle. She has a moment of awkward panic as she realizes where she's hiding, much to Carlton's quiet amusement. Achoo! Far away in the dark castle, a loud sneeze rings out. Sick in bed, Shelanne insists to the attentive ghost servants that she has a cold because Modith is freezing, not because she skipped her medicine. As the servants tuck her in, she reflects that despite their strangeness, she has never received this kind of attention and care before. She closes her eyes with a peaceful smile, thinking she might actually be happy, unaware of the fiery darkness looming in her fate. Raise. In a vision, a hero of light raises a glowing staff, questioning how light and darkness can possibly coexist. Crackle wielding a radiant sword, he declares this will be the final war between Hassinat and Modith, the ultimate battle of light versus dark. The vision reveals his fated enemy, the powerful and feared Carlton the Demon King. His demonic red eyes glow with power as his name echoes through the darkness of the vision. Flash. The vision shocks Shelanne in her sleep as she lets out a terrified scream of Carlton's name. Huff, pant, she jolts awake in bed, recognizing the horrible scene she just witnessed as someone calls out to her. Flash. The vision intensifies and Shelanne screams Carlton's name in her sleep. Huff, pant. She jolts awake in bed, realizing with horror that she recognizes the scene from her nightmare. Rub, wipe. Carlton and Theo are at her side, asking if she's all right as she realizes the nightmare was the tragic ending from the book. Pat. As Carlton gently pats her head, she desperately wonders how she can change the future where he and Oheniel destroy each other. Sparkle. Carlton brightly declares he'll stay with her tonight, but Theo immediately objects that it's improper for him to sleep next to a young lady. Snap. Carlton argues he's her father, but Theo holds firm until a new idea pops into his head. Spark. He suggests they make Julianne a guardian pet and asks Carlton to give him one of his dark, vine-like tendrils. Shwoom! With a smile, Theo uses his own magic to transform the dark energy into a brightly glowing, beautiful essence. Crackle. Shelanne watches in awe, completely captivated by the powerful magic swirling before her. Ta-da! Theo proudly presents her with a small, round pink ball, announcing that her new guardian pet is complete. Carlton agrees to the solution, but a confused Shelanne can only stare at the object, thinking it's just a furry ball. As she holds the trembling fuzzball, pop. It suddenly sprouts cute ears and a tiny face, letting out a soft mew. Theo advises her to give it a name to bond with it, but Shelanne remains doubtful that such a tiny creature could keep her safe. Whoosh. The scene shifts to the quaint and peaceful Orr village several days later. At the 34th child-rearing exchange, the topic of discussion is how much children love getting birthday presents. The mothers share stories of presents being a symbol of love, with one recounting how her child cried when she forgot a gift. Sip. Disguised as Carlene, Carlton listens with great interest, absorbing the parenting advice. Flinch. But when a woman asks if they also enjoy getting gifts from their children, the thought startles Carlton completely. Sigh. A woman at the meeting shares how her daughter lovingly saved up for months to buy her a birthday bracelet. A woman asks Carlene what gift his daughter gave him, leaving him speechless. Cough. The thought that her daughter has never given him anything makes him choke on his tea, causing the other women to worry. PFFT. Back at the castle, Theo teases Carlton, asking if he's actually jealous of the other mothers. Groan. Carlton denies it, calling birthdays insignificant, but Theo scoffs, clearly unconvinced. Sniffle. Defeated, Carlton admits he wants a gift from Shelanne, but Theo points out that his birthday is tomorrow, making it awkward to ask. Rise. Theo sighs in resignation and agrees to talk to Shelanne on his behalf. Shelanne is stunned to learn from outside her window that Carlton's birthday is tomorrow. She fumes silently, wishing Theo had just told her directly instead of being so vague. Theo gently explains to Shelanne that people give gifts on birthdays, hoping she'll understand his hint. Droop. The reality of having no money hits Shelanne, and she despairs over how to get Carlton a present. Wah. She cries to the little ghost servant, frustrated that everyone in the castle is so weird and telling her this at the last minute. She stops crying, confused, as the ghost servant floats toward her offering a pink pillow. Fluffy. Touching the soft cushion, she realizes the ghost is trying to help. Ponder. An idea strikes her, and she triumphantly holds up the cushion and a pair of scissors, declaring she knows what to do as the ghost recoils in shock. Cut. Snip. After some secret crafting, she announces her handmade gift is finished. The next day, at Carlton's birthday meal, he smiles warmly at Shelanne and Theo, asking if a small object is his gift. He proudly displays a handmade bunny pin on his cloak, confirming it's a gift from Shelanne. Theo teases Carlton for being so sentimental, while Shelanne feels relieved that her simple gift was a success. Theo glances over, jealously mentioning his birthday is coming up too, and Shelanne reluctantly promises to make him a gift. Theo excitedly requests a cat-shaped gift, leaving Shelanne to regret her casual promise. An elder bursts in with terrible news. Oheniel's holy magic has been detected on the outskirts of Modith. As the elder explains that demons have started appearing there, Shelanne panics, fearing the end of the story is near. Fiddle. Unfazed, Carlton adjusts his new pin and declares he will deal with Oheniel personally. He notices Shelanne's sad expression and wonders what's wrong. His demonic red eyes narrow with cold determination. A vision of the past shows a man with long white hair addressing a young, worried boy named Carlton. Pat. The man gently pats the young Carlton's head, reassuring him. Pat. Back in the present, Carlton pats Shelanne's head, telling her not to worry and that he'll be back soon before ordering preparations for battle. Swish. He gives his final orders and turns to leave in a hurry. Horrified, Shelanne thinks that he can't face Oheniel now and that the story can't end yet. Halt. Just as he reaches the door, a small voice stops him. With tears in her eyes, Shelanne clutches his cloak and begs him to stay. Sniffle? She cries that she's scared, lamenting that the story is moving far too quickly. Bottom. Completely misinterpreting her fear, Carlton's heart pounds, thinking Shelanne is worried about him. The long and terrible war between the kingdoms of Hassinat and Modith is recounted. It was defined by the fated, destructive conflict between Oheniel and Carlton. Whoosh! Their battles spread terror and destruction across the entire world. Flash! Elsewhere, one of Oheniel's holy magic arrays activates, casting a brilliant light. Whoosh! The array traps a dark spirit, a grim testament to the war that leaves the people of both kingdoms in despair. Oheniel's men marvel at how a powerful magic array was created, using only a small amount of their captain's divine power. They believe that setting up just a few more arrays will be enough to destroy all the spirits, praising their captain's unmatched skill. But one soldier suddenly stops, sensing a powerful, unfamiliar energy disrupting their magic. Crackle dark, chaotic energy erupts from the ground, shattering the holy magic circle. The soldiers quickly draw their swords, preparing for the unseen enemy. Realizing they face no ordinary sorcerer, their leader orders an immediate retreat, vowing to buy them time. In his eye's reflection, he sees the silhouette of a powerful figure emerging from the darkness. Doom. The demon king of Modith, Carlton, appears before them, radiating overwhelming power. The soldier is stunned, realizing with horror that he's facing Carlton himself. Float. Carlton floats ominously, noting that Oheniel's holy magic wave is weak and unstable. The soldier stares in terror as Carlton descends, wondering why the Demon King is approaching him. Spark. Carlton smirks, thinking this is too easy, as the terrified soldier realizes he's too weak to block an attack. Glow. Deciding it's his only option, the soldier activates a glowing magic scroll. Flash. The scroll unleashes a burst of light, allowing the soldier to escape Carlton's grasp. Boom! A massive magical explosion erupts in the aftermath. Wish! In the now empty, desolate landscape, Carlton stands alone. Whoosh! Carlton dismisses the escape as a petty stunt as fiery energy rises around him, and the scene shifts. Far away at a white castle, the soldier's thoughts echo in despair over destroying Captain Oheniel's scroll. Trudge. Defeated and tattered, he decides he must report the disastrous encounter with the Demon King to his captain. He's greeted by his comrades, who call him Jarus, and report that Carlton destroyed all the magic arrays they had set up. His fellow soldier hands him a familiar bunny brooch found in the wreckage, noting it holds the Demon King's energy, which Jarus agrees to deliver to Oheniel. Chills. The image of a furious Carlton flashes through Jarus' mind as he holds the tiny pink pin. Jarus questions if Oheniel is truly strong enough to face the Demon King, pondering the mystery of the bunny-shaped brooch. Swish. Back at Modith Castle, Theo notes the absence of Oheniel's energy on Carlton, who explains he only fought a follower. Theo deduces Oheniel didn't appear because of the harvest season, which would put Hassinat's border at risk. When Theo asks if he's listening, Carlton erupts in silent fury, startling Theo and the Elder. Clench. Realizing his precious brooch from Shelanne is gone, Carlton vows to kill the thief who took it. Yell. From the castle walls, a chibi Theo quietly scolds Carlton for being so loud while everyone is trying to sleep. Rumble. The entire castle begins to shake violently from Carlton's rage. Huff. Pant. A terrified Shelanne is jolted awake by the shaking, crying out and wondering if it's an earthquake. Yawn. The next morning, a weary Theo tells a sleepy Shelanne that he's relieved nothing bad happened, despite the loud commotion last night. Lean A-Maid approaches the tired Shelanne, now called Lady Marianne, to tell her something important. Whisper. Marianne overhears the maid and Theo discussing invitations for a Harvest Day festival in 3 days. Glimmer with sparkling eyes, a curious Marianne asks the disguised Carlton to explain what Harvest Day is. Bottom, completely charmed, he explains that Harvest Day is Modith's only and most historic holiday. The festival, held at Modith Castle, is a time for everyone to gather and pray. He elaborates that since Modith has no crops, their harvest comes from the spoils of war. Marianne reflects that the original novel never mentioned this holiday, as it was focused on Oheniel. Groan. Disguised Carlton adds that on Harvest Day, families and friends gather for a special meal. Glance. Hearing this, Marianne feels a pang of sadness, wishing she could share a meal with her family too. Weepy. She tearfully begs to help with the festival preparations, and her cuteness makes disguised Carlton's heart pound. Bottom. Ooh! A little ghost chef excitedly tosses up an ingredient with its cleaver. The ghost displays incredible speed, dicing the vegetable in midair. Marianne is amazed by the ghost's skill, remarking that even the little ghosts in Modith can cook. Chop chop. She watches, delighted, as a team of mustachioed ghost chefs prepares a meal. Inspired, Marianne rolls up her sleeves, determined to show off her own cooking skills. Stinky, smelly. Her determination wavers as she's presented with bizarre and unappetizing ingredients. From sinister black eggs to over-fried vegetables, she despairs until a ghost presents a strange red fruit. Ta-da! Chomp A ghost takes a huge bite out of the weird fruit. Triple A watching the ghosts eat. Marianne finally understands why Modith resorts to stealing food from other nations. P2. Another ghost spits out the fruit as a third presents her with the long list of dishes for Harvest Day. Ta-da! With renewed purpose, Marianne decides to make scrambled eggs, hoping better food can lead to less fighting. Scamper. She runs to disguised Carlton with a list, asking him to get her specific ingredients and spices. Bottom. She pleads, pretty please, and her adorable expression completely flusters him. Pound, pound. He clutches his chest, thinking his heart is going to explode from her cuteness. Flutter. The scene shifts to the Holy Knight's grand castle, with white doves flying overhead. Clip, clop. Jarus rides his horse through the woods toward the castle. He looks upon the castle, thinking he has finally made it. Arriving at the entrance, he proudly announces to himself that he's reached the Holy Knight's castle. A guard reports his arrival, and a man inside, presumably Captain Oheniel, calmly agrees to see him. Jarus reports the state of the front line to Captain O'Neill, adding that they found something the Demon King dropped. Oheniel smiles, intrigued, as Jarus explains the object appears to be a powerful, evil-infused magical device they've brought for him. Bow. With a respectful bow, Jarus affirms his loyalty to his captain. Wish? The scene shifts to the dark castle of Modith under a moonlit sky. Ooh. Later, the little ghost servant proudly serves a meal to Carlton, Theo, and Shelanne at the dinner table. Chills. Carlton and Theo stare in horror at the unappetizing food on their plates, and Theo nervously asks what it is. Theo forces a smile asking Shelanne if she's the one who cooked the horrid and smelly dish. Shelanne proudly presents her steamy, warm dish, calling it spaghetti, while Theo shrieks internally, thinking it looks like a devil vine cooked in diarrhea. Doom! Carlton and Theo are horrified by another stinky dish, which Shelanne happily explains as sushi. Gah! Blay! Ugh! Carlton recoils in disgust after trying the food, sighing in defeat. Stab! Furious, Carlton slams his fork into the dining table, shattering the wood. A chibi Carlton covers the disastrous meal, suggesting they pretend it never happened, as Shelanne wonders why they find it so strange. Theo gently suggests they stick to the festival's original plan, trying to spare her feelings by saying they don't want her to get tired. Disappointed, Shelanne pouts until Carlton insists they will eat what she made, though Theo worries it's too bold for the elderly head of House Willendorf. Puzzled by the name, Shelanne asks who House Willendorf is, and Theo begins to explain the notable historic families of Modith. Carlton explains that House Willendorf specializes in curses, while the Surte family is comprised of powerful sorcerers. Schwoom. He adds that the royal family is known for its mastery of ice bolt magic, demonstrating a small frozen burst in his hand. Whoosh. Watching the magic, Shelanne thinks it reminds her of fireworks, and how beautiful they would look in Modith's dark sky. Curious, Shelanne notes that she's never met Carlton's family, and asks where they live. Whoosh! Shelanne thinks Carlton's magic reminds her of fireworks, and how lovely they would look in Modith's dark sky. Curious, Shelanne notes that she's never met Carlton's family and asks where they live. SHWP. Carlton's expression turns somber as he dispels the magic, quietly questioning, "My family?" Wish! Memory flashes of a younger Carlton, standing before the long, white-haired man from his vision. Tap. Back in the present, the mood darkens and shifts. Panic! Seeing Carlton's dark aura, Theo quickly tries to change the subject by asking Shelanne about her festival plans. Shelanne suggests fireworks, fondly recalling how she always liked watching them. But Theo's confusion makes her realize they might not exist in Modith. Flail! She excitedly explains fireworks are exploding, twinkling lights, leaving Theo to wonder about the boom. Theo offers to replicate the effect with magic, but Shelanne grows worried, realizing her question about his family caused Carlton's mood to change. The scene transitions to the next day with an image of glowing flowers. Busy, bustle. On the day of the Harvest Day festival, Marianne helps a finely dressed Shelanne prepare. Sparkle, twinkle. The camera focuses on the intricate details of Shelanne's beautiful gown and bejeweled tiara. Glitter. Dressed elegantly, Shelanne feels curious but also worries the festival might involve a strange cult-like ritual. Groan. She struggles under the weight of her elaborate hair ornament, wondering why Marianne chose something so heavy. Shelanne pleads to wear something simpler, but Marianne insists she must dress formally as His Majesty's daughter for her first official event. Gasp! As Marianne's words sink in, Shelanne is stunned to realize that she is the one who will be offering the prayer. Shriek panicked at the revelation. A chibi Shelanne flees the castle in terror. Blare. A trumpet sounds from the castle walls, signaling the start of the ceremony in the land of eternal night. A cloaked observer notes the dead silence of the country, even on its only holiday, Harvest Day. As hooded figures gather, they murmur about the strangeness of the king, bringing a princess with him. One man in a plague doctor mask complains about the king's recent whims, but Elder Willendorf warns him to be quiet, almost revealing something from a past festival. The observers question the king's decision to have a non-biological child perform the sacred ritual of burning the dragon's scale. Crowd. The group moves forward through the crowd, one of them expressing worry because the princess is only a child. Swish. A large crowd of robed figures is gathered for the momentous occasion. Whoosh! Flash. A great blue fire ignites within a magical circle, marking the beginning of the ceremony. A bearded elder with a staff solemnly declares they must put their faith in the king's decision. Standing beside Shelanne, Carlton addresses the assembly, welcoming them to the altar to celebrate the festival. With a determined gaze, he formally announces the beginning of the festival. Theo looks on, praying that the eternal night will ensure Modith's everlasting strength. Carlton looks up defiantly, vowing to protect his kingdom, even if it means defying the will of God. Marianne leans in, instructing the confused Shelanne to throw a dragon's scale into the fire and recite the prayer as the rightful crown princess of Modith. Dawdon. With Shelanne holding the dragon scale, Carlton announces that she will say the prayer on his behalf. Carlton looks down at Shelanne, formally asking her to pray for all of them. Panicked that she hasn't prepared a prayer, Shelanne makes a snap decision and decides to just wing it. She tosses the dragon scale into the bright blue flames, causing them to flare. Raise! With her fist held high, Shelanne boldly offers a prayer for world peace. The entire cloaked assembly falls into a stunned, awkward silence at her unexpected prayer. The masked observers whisper among themselves about how strange the princess is. Carlton silences the crowd, while a dazed Shelanne realizes what she just said. Nearby, Theo stifles a laugh. Flutter. As black crows fly into the night, Shelanne internally calls herself an idiot for her outburst. Hiding in the woods, she cringes with shame and embarrassment over how clumsy she must have sounded. Swish. Still overcome with embarrassment, she feels a strange surge of power emanate from her hand. She despairs, feeling she's done nothing right since arriving, having failed to stop the war, and now ruining the festival. Russell, convinced she's too ashamed to face Carlton, her thoughts are interrupted by a sound in the brush. Peek. Hearing the noise, she cautiously peeks from behind a tree, wondering if someone is there. The scene transitions deeper into the woods, where glowing blue wisps float among the trees. She spots a cloaked man she recognizes as Dwayne, and wonders if he's waiting for someone. Step to her surprise, Marianne emerges from the trees to meet Dwayne, leaving Cheyenne to wonder what they're doing. Confused, she wonders why they are meeting secretly when the festival should still be happening. Step. As Marianne approaches the cloaked Dwayne, Shelanne questions their mysterious meeting. A puzzled Shelanne watches them from the bushes, wondering what they could be up to during the festival. Swish. She watches as Dwayne secretly hands something to Marianne. Snap! Trying to get a closer look, Shelanne accidentally steps on a twig, betraying her hiding spot. FWIP. Alerted by the sound, Marianne spins around and sharply demands to know who is there. Cover. Startled and exposed, Shelanne quickly covers her mouth in a panic. Sheer effect Theo suddenly appears behind Shelanne, silencing her as she recognizes him with a start. She asks what he's doing here, but he just smiles and tells her to look up. Theo looks on with a knowing smile. Glance. Shelanne's gaze shifts upward. She asks what she's supposed to be looking at, her eyes filled with curiosity. Oh. Bang! A massive, beautiful firework of blue light explodes in the night sky. Shelanne stands beside the cloaked Theo in a field of glowing flowers, watching the spectacle he created for her. As magical butterflies flutter around them, Theo confirms this is what she wanted to see, and she tearfully agrees it's beautiful. Bang! The sky bursts into a brilliant, multicolored fireworks display. The magical scene is filled with glowing butterflies fluttering among flowers under the sparkling night sky. Boom! Pop! In a memory from her past life, a child marvels at the pretty fireworks, calling for her mother to look. A young woman in her previous life snaps a photo of the fireworks, planning to send it to her little sister. Back in the present, Shelanne watches the beautiful display with awe. The thought of taking a picture makes her sad as she realizes she has no one to send it to now. In her memory, she holds her phone and feels a familiar pang of loneliness. Boom! She recalls always watching fireworks alone in her world, but admits this time, with Theo, feels strangely different. She asks Theo if he likes the pretty colors she chose for the display. Standing in the field of white roses, she points up at the sky. When Theo doesn't answer, she asks why he's quiet, and he apologizes for being lost in thought. She offers to make the show last longer. She compliments the beautiful fireworks again, asking if Theo truly made them all himself. Shrug. Theo smiles proudly and confirms that he did, indeed, create them all for her. Grin. He confidently promises to make all her wishes come true, but she is confused, asking how that would be possible. Theo hesitates, suddenly at a loss for words. Flustered, he admits he doesn't know why he made such a bold promise. He quickly changes the subject, grabbing her arm and rushing her toward the Harvest Night banquet before the food is gone. Shelanne wonders if Marianne and Dwayne are also at the party, noting it didn't seem like it, as Theo explains the festival's origins. As they walk, Theo explains that in the past, everyone celebrated with Modith's famous cheese liquor. Shelanne beams, asking if this means Modith wasn't always a land of eternal night. Noticing he's stopped, she turns and asks him, what's wrong? Halt! Theo abruptly stops walking, his expression turning serious. He dismisses her concern, telling her to go on to the banquet ahead of him. Shelanne agrees but tells him not to be late. After she leaves, he lets out a heavy sigh. Whoosh! Alone, Theo glares into the distance, wondering if he truly knows everything. Holding a glowing feather to his eye, he admits it's hard to feign ignorance. Whoosh! His eye glows with power as he reveals he possesses the Eye of Prophecy. Whoosh! A stream of magical energy flows from him into the distance. Gazing forward, he confirms that his power has allowed him to see something. The scene transitions to the grand and lavishly decorated banquet hall. Clamor, murmur. Inside, robed figures dine while Carlton, Shelanne, and Theo stand at the top of the stairs. Glisten, shimmer. Shelanne's eyes sparkle with delight at the feast, thinking she hasn't seen so much food in forever. Scrumptious. She excitedly imagines eating a juicy piece of fried meat. Shiny. Her eyes widen in awe at a perfectly roasted golden brown chicken. Ta-da! She's overjoyed by the sight of the gorgeous and elaborate desserts. As Shelanne excitedly decides what to eat first, Carlton remarks that, as the child of light, she must like Hassinat's cooking. Carlton muses that Shelanne is like sunshine, prompting Theo to wonder if that's why she attracts a certain kind of energy. Psh! Theo reveals the demonic energy he sensed on Shelanne, adding that she was accepted by the dragon scale ritual, which has only been performed once. Stare. Carlton's expression is grim and intense as he silently processes Theo's words. He begins to explain the reason for her acceptance. Shwoom. As he speaks, a magical, glowing snowflake forms in Carlton's hand. Nom, chew. Seated at the table, Shelanne watches in awe as a large, skull-faced man heartily enjoys his meal. Glance. The skull-faced man suddenly looks over and a terrified Shelanne realizes he's noticed her staring. Plop! To her surprise, the man simply places a large chicken leg onto her plate. Hee. Realizing he's not so scary after all, a blushing Shelanne shyly thanks him. Om nom. They eat together happily, as a voiceover notes that it is now Shelanne's turn to accept Modith. Watching them, Carlton still feels an inexplicable anxiety despite the cheerful scene. Theo tries to reassure him, stating that the dragon scale should be completely burned by now. Theo declares he will collect the ashes to make medicine, but warns Carlton to reconsider making Shelanne the crown princess. Full, stuffed from the meal, Shelanne lets out a sigh of relief, then notices something that makes her curious. Step. She sees Carlton walking down a hallway alone and wonders where he is going. Swish. Following him quietly, she peeks from behind a floral curtain. Lift. Startled, she lifts the curtain to get a better look. She calls out to Carlton, telling him she has a gift for him. Carlton catches her as she runs toward him and asks about the gift, telling her to sit down. Anxious and nervous, Shelanne desperately hopes he isn't about to give her more terrifying skeleton soldiers. Plop. Suddenly, a giant soft teddy bear is plopped right in her lap, muffling her surprise. Carlton holds up the bear, recalling in a chibi flashback how his exceptional abilities let him sweep all the prizes. He awkwardly explains he heard girls like these as gifts and worries when she stays silent, asking if she dislikes it. Hug! Overcome with emotion, Shelanne throws her arms around him in a tight hug. Clutch! Burying her face in his chest, she quietly thanks him. Surprised but gentle, Carlton looks down at her and softly says her name. She recalls her old life, remembering how she used to see kids getting toys from their parents at stores. In a flashback, a younger Shelanne stares wistfully at a father buying a teddy bear for his happy daughter. Squeeze. Back in the present, she hugs Carlton tighter, remembering how envious she used to be. Looking up at him with a bright smile, she ecstatically tells him she loves it, and it's exactly what she wanted. Teary and weepy, she thinks to herself that her lifelong wish has finally come true. Touched. Carlton looks at her, visibly moved by her pure and heartfelt joy. Kaya. Overjoyed, Shelanne internally declares her love for the teddy bear, calling it the best thing ever. Giggle. As Shelanne happily hugs the bear, Carlton watches her, thinking to himself that she truly is like sunshine. In a flashback, a young boy asks his father if the bright light they are seeing is magic. The memory shows a long-haired man holding the small white-haired boy on his shoulders as they gaze at the horizon. The father explains that they are seeing the sun, prompting the young Carlton to ask if sunlight is good for him. The father affirms that it is, explaining that sunlight brings warmth to people as doves fly through the sky. Filled with youthful determination, young Carlton declares his wish to bring the sun to Modith, so it can shine on his home. Shwoom! Back in the present, a powerful magic surges as Carlton murmurs a spell. Shelanne looks up from her teddy bear, confused by Carlton's strange murmuring. Carlton reveals he has just told her the royal family's surname, as Shelanne recalls Theo's lesson about prominent families. She internally questions the sudden and unexpected revelation of Carlton's surname. He explains that his surname means ice and frost, and its pronunciation is forbidden, manifesting a magical snowflake in his hand. Realizing she's learned something new about him, she wonders if sharing his name means he's finally accepting her as family. The scene transitions, darkening with a sense of foreboding. The setting shifts to the desolate, gnarled battlefield on the outskirts of Modith. A group of soldiers gathers as narration explains that today is when Modith's defenses are at their weakest. One of the soldiers remarks that the battlefield seems unusually foggy. Clip, clop. The sound of an approaching horse cuts through the tension. A captain named Oheniel arrives on horseback, and his soldiers ask if they should make camp as they did before. Captain Oheniel firmly rejects the idea, declaring they will move forward and dismissing a past sign as a mere child's toy. He vows that he will not allow the people of Modith to harm regular citizens. A raven takes flight into the dark sky, signaling a turn of events. The narration explains that after Harvest Day, Hassinat launched a full-scale assault, leading to an indefinite war. Over the next 3 years, the devastating war laid waste to both Modith and Hassinat. Two cloaked figures, one of whom is Dwayne, play flutes, summoning ethereal spirits to the battlefield. A determined Captain Oheniel stands ready for battle, sword in hand. Flume, he draws his sword, which glows with holy power, his eyes sharp with conviction. Slash. With a battle cry, Oheniel lunges, clashing with the magic emanating from Dwayne's flute. Sting. The attack hits its mark, and Dwayne flinches back in pain. Swish Carlton suddenly intervenes, casting a protective barrier and yelling for his subordinate to watch out. Kaboom. As the powers collide in a massive explosion, Shelanne's narration reveals she was trying to recall this moment from the novel. She remembers realizing that the attack on Carlton, the Demon King, had been moved forward in the timeline for an unknown reason. Oheniel, seeing Carlton trying to avoid a direct fight, prepares a powerful trap. Shwoom. He activates a holy magic array, intending to deliver a fatal blow. Standing before one of Carlton's masked retainers, Oheniel taunts his true target, asking why he avoids fighting, and if he's afraid to lose. A worried Dwayne urges His Majesty, Carlton, to retreat to the safety of the castle. Scowl. Carlton remains silent, his expression heavy with conflict as dark energy swirls around him. Whoosh. Oheniel readies his sword, declaring with grim resolve that the fight will end today. The narration recalls that in the original novel, Carlton saw through Oheniel's trap and did not fall for it. Scribble, scrawl. Back in her room, Shelanne writes that Carlton's refusal to fight back led to defeat but few casualties, though Oheniel saw it as cowardice. Sigh. She laments that she can't remember the true reason for Carlton's actions, as it has been too long since she read the book. Hiding behind a pillow, she frets over her failed attempts to warn them, fearing they are all doomed to die. Thud. She flinches, startled by a sudden noise at her door. The door flies open as a panicked voice cries out that it's a disaster concerning His Majesty. Shelanne's thoughts race, wondering what the disaster could be. As the door stands ajar, the frantic cry about a disaster involving His Majesty echoes again. Panic. A panicked demon maid rushes in, frantically searching for Lord Theo and crying that Dwayne and Marianne are in trouble. Rush. A now older Shelanne rises, asking what all the commotion is about. She approaches the distraught maid and demands to know what happened to Carlton as a tiny spirit shrieks in distress, her eyes widen in pure shock as the terrible news sinks in. Carlton has been seriously injured. FWIP. Crying out for Carlton, a panicked Shelanne tries to run forward as a voice calls her name. Theo firmly stops her, warning that it's too dangerous outside, but she insists she's worried about Carlton. Theo explains Carlton is seriously injured and his power is out of control, ordering her to stay and wait for her own safety. He walks away, leaving her behind the closed door. With a reassuring smile, Theo tells Shelanne that he's there and asks her to trust him. Alone again, Shelanne wonders why Carlton is hurt when the book said there were few casualties, realizing something must have changed. She stands alone and worried in the hall. Tearing up, she worries that Carlton might actually die as she sniffles, comforted by the tiny spirit. Hug! A sudden realization strikes her, and she tightly hugs the spirit, declaring she needs its help. An armored guard stands stiffly as Shelanne decides to sneak out while everyone is busy. Rush! Bustle! As maids frantically run to get towels and medicine for Lord Theo and the injured, Shelanne takes her chance. Scamper! She runs down the hall, telling herself she can make it to Carlton's room. Having reached the door, she catches her breath, then peers inside and gasps at what she sees. Crackle inside the room. Chaotic purple energy sparks and surges through the air. VZZT thorny vines and wild energy envelop an unconscious Carlton. Sparks up. Shelanne stares in shock as the rampant magic swirls around Carlton. Her eyes widen in horror, reflecting the chaotic scene before her. Two cloaked figures, an older woman and man, warn that if Carlton doesn't wake up, the power of the dark bone will consume him. Lash, a whip of energy flies past them as the man shouts a warning, explaining his majesty can't tell ally from foe. Fling Shelanne is suddenly yanked into the room, crying out Carlton's name. The two retainers cry out in alarm as Shelanne is pulled toward the chaos. Strike! The powerful energy hits her as she screams in pain. A surge of violent energy engulfs her. The chaotic magic continues to swirl and crackle around her. Shock! Floating in the air, bound by thorny vines and energy, Shelanne desperately calls for Carlton to wake up. Sparked, the intense energy continues to pulse around them. Panicking, Shelanne realizes Carlton is almost completely consumed by the power and wonders what to do. Huff. The immense pressure makes it difficult for her to breathe. Pant. She struggles against the magical restraints. Pleading, she begs Carlton to open his eyes, remembering how happy she was to finally have a family. A memory of Carlton softly calling her name flashes through her mind. She recalls a tender moment when he gently held her face. A memory of them reading together appears as she thinks that she doesn't care if it's a dream. With renewed determination, she vows to do everything she can to prevent Carlton's death. She laments that she hasn't even had the chance to call him dad yet. Crackle! The retainers yell for her as the energy intensifies around her. Flinch! Racked by the out-of-control power, Carlton hears Shelanne calling his name and crying. Flash! Hearing her distress, a surge of energy radiates from him. Thud! The chaotic power suddenly dissipates, and he collapses onto the bed. Rushing to his side, Shelanne desperately asks if he's okay. She tearfully begs him to wake up as he weakly calls her name. Reach! Carlton gently wipes away her tears, telling her not to cry, just as Theo rushes in, demanding to know if she is there. Theo looks on in surprise, questioning her presence. Shelanne embraces the unconscious Carlton as a soft light envelops them. The scene transitions to Carlton's lavish bedroom, where Theo watches over him. Carlton lies peacefully in bed, still unconscious. Shwoom. Shelanne asks about Carlton's condition, and Theo explains he was seriously injured and lost control after overexerting his power, which could now escape his grasp. Sigh. Theo adds that the attack by holy magic caused the two powers in his body to clash, putting him into a deep sleep. With tears in her eyes, Shelanne asks if he will be okay after some rest. Theo explains that all he can do is limit the dragon's power and hasten his healing, but there's no telling when Carlton will wake up. It could even take years. Theo looks down with a grim expression, wondering why Carlton had been so impatient. Theo reflects on Carlton's actions, calling him a greedy dragon and questioning his impatience. Shelanne desperately asks Theo for a cure, and he explains there is a healing stone in Hassinat, a rival kingdom, but it's beyond their reach. He clarifies that because the people of Modith use a different kind of magic, they are forbidden from ever setting foot on Hassinat's land. Theo's thoughts drift to the unconscious Carlton, recalling he warned him of a prophecy and now wonders why he still chose to fight. Realizing Carlton acted differently than in the book, Shelanne becomes determined to fix the diverging plot and set things right. She reasons that since she's a regular person and not from Modith, she'll be the one to go to Hassinat and retrieve the healing stone. A title card appears for the novel she remembers, The Legend of Arphia. The narration explains, the book tells the tragic story of two kingdoms, Hassinat and Modith, that were both destroyed by war. An illustration from the novel shows the protagonist, his face obscured in shadow. The story's protagonist is identified as Oheniel, the golden line of Hassinat, while Carlton, the Demon King, suffers the same tragic fate. A powerful memory flashes through her mind of Carlton reaching for her, begging her not to cry. The scene shifts to a dreary, silent dinner between Theo and Shelanne. Theo and Shelanne sit in tense silence. Theo tells Shelanne that Carlton's recovery is uncertain, then furiously warns her to never mention Hassinat again, and she quietly agrees. Sigh. She laments that Theo refused her offer to get the healing stone, leaving her with no other options to save Carlton. As Theo gives orders to Dwayne about a medicine delivery, Shelanne notes his heavy responsibilities and wonders why such a key figure was never mentioned in the book. Perk. While listening, she learns Carlton's injury is a secret and that the kingdom's outskirts are in trouble. A sudden idea strikes her as she overhears that carriages and a patrol are heading to the border. FWIP. Shelanne abruptly announces she's finished eating and must leave, startling Theo. Ouch. As she leaves, Theo clutches his head in sudden pain, feeling as though he's being magically warned against learning more about her. Sneak. Creep. Cloaked in a red hood, Shelanne stealthily makes her way through the castle. Rattle. Clunk. She approaches a carriage being prepared for departure in the courtyard. Rattle. A large, formidable wolf is harnessed to the cart. Foosh. The wolf turns its head, sensing her presence nearby. Shh. As the wolf growls, she reaches a hand out, quietly trying to calm it. Rub. The fierce wolf immediately softens, enjoying her gentle touch. Arf, arf. Clunk. Rattle. Tucked away in the back of the moving carriage, Shelanne celebrates her successful escape as they depart for the western forest. Now on her way, she reflects that she left Theo a letter and hopes for a safe journey to Hassinat, the land of light. Clank. Ah. The carriage hits a rough patch, and she tumbles out into a sunny forest. Ugh. Dazed, she sits up in a field of flowers, trying to figure out what just happened. Shined, she looks around in awe, realizing it's been ages since she's seen clear skies and lush green trees. Rustle. Her wonder is cut short as a holy knight appears from the brush, spotting her immediately. Dash. Panicked, she makes a run for it. The knight watches her flee into the woods. The knights discuss her, with one sensing demonic energy and ordering the others to follow what they believe is the kidnapped child. Sprint. She runs for her life as narration explains how the Holy Knights began their pursuit. Huff. Pant. Exhausted, she stops to catch her breath, unable to run any further. She wonders why the Knights of Hassinat are chasing her, a perfectly normal person. Cornered, she hears a knight declare she's a witch from Modith releasing demonic energy. A man with blonde hair steps forward, ordering his knights to wait. He observes that she exudes demonic energy but is human, then offers to purify her. She stares in shock, recognizing him as Oheniel, the captain of the Holy Knights. Wince. Confused, she wonders why the novel's noble protagonist would want to purify a regular person. Why? She panics, realizing the demonic energy must be from her spirit friend Squishy, and frantically tries to hide it. Oheniel dismisses a soldier's suggestion to take her to the temple. Poke. He touches her forehead, warning his men to keep their distance as her demonic energy could harm them. Dizzy. Feeling suddenly sleepy, she begins to drift into unconsciousness. Lift. Oheniel catches her as she faints, sensing she has the same energy as the Demon King and wondering if she was his captive. Holding her gently, Oheniel promises to keep her safe from now on. Hidden in her hood, the tiny spirit Squishy lets out a worried cry. Mew. Theo wakes with a start, flustered and confused. Dizzy and dazed, a strange magical sensation washes over him. A frantic, cloaked retainer rushes in, crying out to Lord Theo that something terrible has happened. She bursts into the room, announcing that Princess Shelanne has disappeared. The retainer reports that Shelanne took her gold, a thick cloak, and Squishy, but left a letter for him. Groan. Theo looks at the child's drawing she left as a letter and questions her intelligence. He asks about the patrol to the outskirts, and the retainer reports one group was annihilated by Holy Knights while the other returned. Growing more concerned, Theo asks if anyone suspicious was seen sneaking into a carriage, but is told nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Theo orders Dwayne to send carrier pigeons to the outskirts immediately to search for any sign of Shelanne. Boom. He worries that she'll run into the Holy Knights, knowing she's covered in demonic energy despite being human, but hopes they won't harm a child. The scene shifts to a town in Hassinat, where a guard announces the arrival of Captain Oheniel. Clip clop. Oheniel rides majestically through the town as admiring women swoon over his handsome features. Townspeople gossip about the war hero's return, mentioning he's heading to the capital tomorrow. A woman calls over a dark-haired knight named Jarus. Another woman asks about the child Captain O'Hanlon was seen holding earlier. Jarus explains they believe the child was kidnapped by Modith, and that Oheniel is keeping her with him to purify her, despite his own injuries. The group praises Oheniel as the Golden Lion of Hassinat, and a woman asks Jarus for help with her son's schooling. In a dreamlike haze, a voice calls Shelanne's name over and over. Flash Shelanne jolts awake, calling out for Theo in her confusion. She finds herself in an unfamiliar, lavish bedroom, sunlight streaming through the window. Swish. A voice announces she's finally awake, and she turns in surprise. Twinkle sparkle, the handsome Oheniel stands before her, telling her not to be afraid as she recognizes him in shock. Falter. Shelanne decides to feign innocence, hoping the story's hero won't harm her. Oheniel introduces himself as her rescuer, but then asks her to give him that. Tremble. Quiver. Terrified, she asks what he's talking about. Peek. A frightened Squishy peeks out from her collar, realizing they're in trouble. Oheniel's gaze intensifies as he repeats his demand for the dark thing hidden beneath her clothes. Foosh back. In Modith, a flash of power emanates from Theo's eye. Sigh. Theo realizes Oheniel's senses are far too sharp and he must be more cautious when communicating with Squishy. Erg. Ache. He suddenly clutches his eye, struck by a sharp pain. As strange energy flickers around him, he wonders what's happening. He struggles as the power in his eye surges, his vision growing hazy. His sight blurs as he's overcome with dizziness. Point. Oheniel now has his sword aimed directly at Shelanne, demanding to know why she won't hand over the creature. As Shelanne trembles, clutching Squishy, Oheniel offers to instantly expel the demonic energy from it. Weepy Squishy whimpers as Shelanne realizes Oheniel's personality is far from heroic. Shout. She bravely pushes the sword away, declaring that Squishy is her friend, not a demon. Oheniel pauses, considering her defiant words with a cool expression. SHNK. He sheathes his sword, deciding to let her keep the creature for now so she can adjust to her new surroundings. Oheniel instructs the maid to care for Shelanne, but warns her not to touch the girl, threatening to purify her if she does. The maid looks on anxiously, wondering if it's truly safe to have a demon nearby. The maid introduces herself as Nyla and asks Shelanne her name before suggesting it would be better if the captain took the demon away. Shelanne fiercely defends Squishy, insisting he's a friend who protects her, which surprises Nyla. Scratch. Nyla thoughtfully considers Shelanne's words. Pat. Nyla pats her head, saying they must share special memories and that the Holy Knights are less strict about demons than the temple priests. Gasp. Nyla panics, realizing she touched Shelanne despite the captain's warning, but hopes her divinely charged gloves will protect her. Swish. Nyla comforts Shelanne, telling her none of this is her fault and that it's a shame such a terrible thing happened to her. Nyla realizes Shelanne perfectly matches the description a woman named Carlton gave of her daughter, leaving Shelanne confused by the name. Nyla explains that Carlton is a single mother with stunning silver hair, shown in a memory happily chatting with her. Nyla quietly worries, wondering if Carlton moved away since she hasn't seen her recently. Feeling awkward and reluctant, Shelanne asks if she must stay with the Holy Knights, explaining she needs to find her family. Droop. As they walk, Shelanne sadly wonders what this demonic energy everyone keeps mentioning is. Nyla explains that Captain Oheniel is very interested in her demonic energy, and that finding a way to remove it will be good for her, asking for patience. Flutter. Shelanne looks out the window with a heavy heart as a lone bird flies across the sky. Haya, a carriage, approaches a grand, imposing castle surrounded by lush gardens. Rattle. Clunk. As the carriage halts, Oheniel sits majestically on his horse nearby. Swish. Shelanne peeks out the window, marveling that the Holy Knight's castle is as fancy and grand as the novel described. Plop. Peep peep. A small bird lands on her finger, and she greets the lovely creature. Flap. She watches from the carriage as the bird suddenly takes flight and soars away. VZZZT. The bird cries out as it's suddenly enveloped in crackling blue energy mid-flight. Swoosh. Plop. The bird falls into Oheniel's hand, and he notes it was infected with demonic energy, just from a brief touch. Oheniel wonders how she can survive with such terrifying demonic energy, and tells Jarus they must keep her under close observation. He realizes she has the same demonic energy as Carlton, and concludes that a secret of Modith must be hidden within her. A knight calls out to the captain from the castle courtyard. The knights line up to formally welcome Captain Oheniel upon his safe return. Creak. The carriage wheels come to a stop in front of the main building. Oheniel dismounts and orders Shelanne and his knights to follow him inside. Click. Clack. Shelanne follows the knights, her small shoes clicking on the stone path. Jarus leads Shelanne to a lavish room, informing her this is where she'll stay, while Captain Oheniel handles her demonic energy. After she agrees, Jarus leaves, and she notes how strange it is that a sunlit room now feels unfamiliar. Slam! The door is locked behind her, and Oheniel orders the guards to watch her and her demon closely. First, Shelanne demands to know why she's locked in, but a purple-haired knight tells her she can't leave without permission. Zap! When the knight tries to grab her, he's repelled by an energy field, as another guard reminds him they were ordered not to touch her. Stagger. The purple-haired knight clutches his hand, feeling her demonic energy, and calls her a witch before leaving to visit the temple. Slam! The door closes again, and Shelanne sadly thinks this isn't fair. Tremble, quiver, alone and scared. She insists she is not a witch. She tries to calm down in her room, pondering the Holy Knight's claims about her strange demonic energy. She theorizes that Carlton's demonic energy must have rubbed off on her from their time together, wondering if their energies are the same. She panics, realizing how bad her situation looks and how unfair it is to be locked up when she isn't a witch. She resolves to prove her innocence as a weary Squishy lets out a faint mew. Slump. She notices Squishy has gone limp and looks sick, calling out to him in worry. Sob. Crying, she hugs Squishy, telling him he can't be sick now because he's all she has. She laments that she got too used to the love and attention she received in Modith, making this isolation much harder. From outside, Nyla frets that Shelanne hasn't eaten but is too scared to check, deciding instead to report to Oheniel. Snug. Shelanne lies in bed, curled up under the covers with Squishy. Standing in the moonlit room, she wonders why the knights won't believe she's not a witch. She reflects that while the book described the people of Hassinat as kind, they aren't nearly as friendly as those in Modith. A dark thought crosses her mind. Perhaps Hassinat started the war. Rustle. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sound from the garden outside her window. Pop. An orange-haired boy appears below, a flower comically landing on his head. Glance. As Shelanne wonders who the boy is, he turns and looks up toward her window. Bump! Startled, she leans forward and accidentally knocks a vase off her windowsill. Shatter. The vase smashes on the ground below, right near the boy's feet. Horrified, Shelanne gasps, "Oh no!" The orange-haired boy looks up from the broken glass with a startled expression. The shattering sound alerts the guards, who call out, "Who goes there?" Hide! Panicked, Shelanne ducks out of sight, knowing the Holy Knights heard her. Peeved. The orange-haired boy stifles a laugh, amused by the scene. Swoosh. In a fantastical memory, the boy is surrounded by flowers and magical light. Back in the present, Shelanne chides herself for ducking, realizing she had no reason to hide. Peek. She looks down and sees the flower the boy dropped, noticing she can sense mana within it, thanks to Carlton's training. She deduces the boy used forbidden magic on the flower and wonders about his identity. Grumble. Rumble. Her stomach growls as she laments that the knights took her food when she threatened a hunger strike. Sniffle. Mew. Feeling utterly miserable, she thinks the Holy Knights are merciless as she starves. Holler. Shout. She hears cries from outside welcoming Captain Oheniel back to the castle. Peeking from a high balcony, she sees Oheniel below as he confirms to a knight that he's heard about the recent commotion. Glance. Oheniel looks up, his gaze directed toward the battlements where Shelanne is hiding. A knight reports that she's only refusing to eat, and Oheniel orders the broken vase cleaned up, confusing the knight. Another knight finds the shattered remains, puzzled as to why a vase was on the ground. Oheniel strides purposefully down the hall, followed by two maids. Knock, knock. He knocks on Shelanne's door and announces he's coming in without waiting for an answer. Fling. He barges into the room, and Shelanne mutters about the pointlessness of knocking. Clamp. Oheniel confronts a tense Shelanne, asking if she dislikes the food since she hasn't been eating. Clack. He announces he will start cleansing her demonic energy in 3 days and has already applied to adopt her, presenting a badge as proof of her new identity. As he turns to leave, he bids her farewell until next time. Shelanne stops him, frantically questioning his plan to adopt her and insisting she has a family. FWIP. Oheniel turns back, coolly questioning her claim. He interrogates her, asking for her family's whereabouts and identification, since no records of her exist in Hassinat. He towers over her, his presence imposing and intimidating. Oheniel explains that because she is engulfed in the Demon King's energy, the temple will label her a witch, a term for anyone corrupted by magic. Shout! She fiercely denies his accusations, yelling that she is not a witch or corrupted by magic. Pat. He pats her head condescendingly, telling her not to worry and promising to help clear her name. He says that once he begins the daily cleansing, she can let go of her past and start a new life. Falter. Rasping her head, he looms over her, and she realizes he's subtly threatening her. She desperately questions if this manipulative man is the same kind and fair Captain Oheniel from the novel. Sigh. He tells her to trust the Holy Knights, stating that he needs her and is willing to help. She asks to go outside for air, but he denies her request, forbidding her from leaving until she is fully cleansed. Slam! After he leaves, Shelanne fumes, complaining that even the Demon King wasn't this tyrannical and wondering who the real villain is. Wah! Crying in frustration, she vows to do anything to escape her imprisonment. She suddenly pauses her crying, a thought crossing her mind. Aha! An idea strikes her as she sits up in bed, a light bulb appearing above her head. Elsewhere, a knight urgently reports to Captain Oheniel that Shelanne has gone missing. Oheniel stands in her empty room as a knight explains the patrols didn't see her leave. Oheniel spots a knot made from a pink ribbon tied to the bedpost, looking at it with curiosity. Glance. The knight suggests she might have made a rope from her sheets and escaped out the window. A shocked Shelanne, clutching Squishy, is revealed to be hiding in the room. Oheniel finds her, asking if she was playing hide-and-seek. Oh, he grabs her arm, startling her, and a meowing Squishy. He scolds her for her defiance, noting that people in Hassinat don't fight back like she does, and she realizes she's been caught. Pout. She internally fumes that her plan to trick them into a fake escape so she could run away for real has been thwarted. Oheniel glares at her, coldly stating that he ought to punish her for her actions. Dizzy, woozy, his intimidating presence makes her feel faint as she concludes he is definitely the story's true villain. As her punishment, a new maid with glasses tells her she still has 156 pages left to transcribe from a book. Glare. Scrawl. Scribble. Shelanne furiously tries to copy the unintelligible language, cursing Oheniel under her breath. The maid peers at Shelia's work, finding a doodle of a demonic character familiar, though she doesn't seem to recognize it. Bleg. As the maid tells her to eat breakfast and then finish her proverbs, Julianne sticks her tongue out, earning a scolding for her rudeness. Sleep on her book. Shelanne complains that she dislikes everything about Hassinat, especially being chastised and woken up early. Slam. She angrily declares that if they won't let her leave, she'll make them kick her out. A knight reports to Oheniel that Shelanne went on a hunger strike and folded her punishment book into origami. Oheniel confronts Shelanne, holding the paper she doodled on and threw out her window. He demands to know why she's acting out, and she retorts it's obviously because he locked her up and forced her to transcribe a book. She turns away from Oheniel, stubbornly refusing to answer him. Twinkle. Sparkle. Oheniel presents a delicious meal, telling the small girl she should eat well. Grumble. Her stomach betrays her as she eyes the steak, debating whether she should give in and eat. Kia. The steak melts in her mouth, and as she savors it, Oheniel asks if her teary eyes mean she's sad. Tearing up, she insists she isn't sad, just suffocated from being locked up, while internally fuming at his audacity. Shake. He sternly forbids her from leaving, warning that the holy magic array in the sky will attack her if she leaves his protection. Shwoom. She recalls a warning, realizing the magic array is the reason her friends can't enter Hassinat, before suddenly clutching her stomach in pain. Sway. She stumbles forward as a voice shouts her name. Shelanne! Thud. She collapses to the floor as Oheniel rushes toward her. Lying in bed, she explains that she ate too fast and her stomach hurts. confirming to Oheniel that the pain is severe. Lift! Flash! Oheniel reveals a healing stone, and she realizes with shock it could be the one to cure Carlton. Jarus grabs the stone from a proud Oheniel, insisting a doctor is better for a child, as Shelanne panics over losing her stone. Wow! She cries desperately, grabbing at Oheniel, pleading for him not to take the healing stone she risked everything for. Oheniel wonders if she's crying because she's so upset, but Jarus dismisses it as pain that will pass once the doctor arrives. Flutter. The scene shifts to a mystical story, beginning with a connection to the origin of everything. The story tells of a time when light descended upon a village, revealing a divine being to the people. Surrounded by holy knights, a woman in a prim dress cradles a newborn baby. Glimmer. A child with abundant divine power was born, whom the temple saw as a gift from God and decided to raise. The people expected this child of light to protect Hassinat, spread its doctrine, and lead the fight against darkness. Snicker, cackle. But the child had a cold heart and couldn't empathize, causing people to whisper that he was a monster. Despite the opposition, a bishop continued to care for the boy, determined to raise him to be righteous and trusted. The boy was raised to become a noble captain, destined to fill the world with light, symbolized by a lion spirit. A hand reaches for Oheniel's reflection, stating he will bring about a future where light swallows everything. Fwish. A cloaked figure reveals that this future of light will leave nothing but silence across the entire continent. Spark. The cloaked boy explains that with his eye of prophecy, he can see not only the past and future, but also the predetermined fates of all people. Flash. However, he can only see futures that are already decided and has no power to change them. Foosh. But, he thinks to himself, Shelanne is different. He can see her present, but not her past or future, making her the only one who confounds his prophetic eye. He wonders what makes Shelanne so different from everyone else. In his vision, the cloaked boy frantically calls out Shelanne's name. Ache, he cries out, clutching his head in agony. He glares furiously, wondering if Oheniel is getting in his way again. Foom. Back in the present, Oheniel senses someone spying on Shelanne and deduces the holy array prevents demons from entering. He wonders if a tiny demon could have slipped through as he watches Shelanne sleep with Squishy. Jarus reports that the doctor visited and confirmed Shelanne will be fine with medicine and rest for her strained stomach. Oheniel takes the blame for forcing her to eat, but Jarus insists it was her own fault for refusing food for so long. Oheniel rejects this, saying it was his fault for failing in his duties as her guardian. Glitter. He looks at the healing stone, realizing how fragile humans are, and that the stone only alleviates pain, not true illness. Jarus watches Oheniel for a moment before speaking up with a request. Jarus asks Oheniel to let Shelanne go outside, explaining that being confined must be difficult for a child her age. Anxious and nervous, he continues his plea, explaining children enjoy playing outside, before apologizing for overstepping. Sigh. Oheniel agrees, admitting he has been negligent as a captain and should have cared for her better despite her demonic energy. FWIP. He decides to take her outside to play tomorrow like a parent, confident that she won't cause any more trouble. Oheniel reaffirms his sense of duty, thinking that since he brought her here, she is his responsibility. The scene shifts to a dreamlike void, where a disoriented Shelanne wonders where she is. Crackle! Zap! Her dream turns into a horrifying flashback, as she witnesses dark, thorny energy corrupting Carlton and cries out his name. Swish! In her nightmare, she kneels beside the fallen Carlton, desperately trying to wake him. A weak voice from her dream asks where she is going, startling a tearful Shelanne. The nightmare continues as a voice orders her to transcribe a mountain of books, forcing her to flee. She screams in defiance, refusing to submit to the nightmarish task. Spring! She jolts upright in bed, gasping for air as she wakes from the terrible dream. Annoyed, she complains that Oheniel haunts even her dreams, noting he's a jerk in real life despite seeming decent in the novel. The maid with glasses enters, informing Shelanne that Captain Oheniel is waiting to take her to meet the bishop. Shelanne lights up, excitedly asking if this means she can go outside, only to be shushed by the maid. Oheniel assures a concerned Jarus that their trip to the temple will be fine as long as Shelanne follows his lead. Glare. Jarus doubts her compliance, noticing the ferocious way she's already staring at Oheniel from inside the carriage. Swish. Oheniel enters the carriage and sits directly beside her, much to her internal frustration. Chomp. Crunch. She furiously eats a snack while Oheniel warns her about her teeth, irritating her even more. Pout. She fumes, hating that her long-awaited trip outside is ruined by Oheniel's presence. Rattle. As the carriage departs, she consoles herself with being outside and remembers the sealing spell on her necklace. She examines her necklace, realizing the sealing spell is the only reason she's being allowed out. Snicker. A new plan forms in her mind. The necklace is her key to escape, and her strange laughter makes Oheniel suspicious. Whoosh! They arrive at the vast and immaculate grounds of the Holy Temple. Inside, the bishop sits alone at his desk, deep in thought before a grand statue. As Oheniel leads an awestruck Shelanne inside, a nun is startled by their arrival and offers a blessing. Oheniel approaches the bishop and gently chides him for dozing off during his prayers again. Perk. The bishop brushes off the comment and notes he can sense the Demon King's energy from Shelanne, who is eyeing a nearby teapot. Pour. The bishop questions what she is doing, and Oheniel explains she's simply pouring tea. Slosh. She accidentally spills tea all over the bishop, who suspects it was an act of hate, though Oheniel dismisses it as childish mischief. The bishop tells Oheniel that raising a child is difficult, reminding him that not all children were as well behaved as he was. Pat. He states that educating a child is a parent's job, then pinches Shelanne's cheeks, calling her far more adorable than Oheniel ever was. Flinch. Oheniel winces, clearly embarrassed by the bishop's teasing comment. Tug. As Shelanne happily pulls at his robes, the bishop warns that her sealing spell isn't enough and her demonic energy must be completely cleansed. Oheniel's expression hardens as he internally insists that he does have the right to educate her. He stuns the bishop by announcing he has adopted Shelanne, a decision she and the bishop immediately question and reject. Oheniel justifies his decision, explaining it's best for him to be her parent, since she requires daily cleansing and isolation. The bishop counters that she clearly hates him, and Shelanne seethes in agreement, making Oheniel finally realize the truth. Rage. The bishop furiously scolds Oheniel for being so oblivious to the child's feelings, with Shelanne eagerly backing him up. The bishop's demeanor turns cold, and he expresses his profound disappointment in Oheniel for failing his duty. A dejected Oheniel bows his head and apologizes to the bishop as Shelanne quietly watches. Fidget. Intimidated by the bishop's sudden harshness, Shelanne realizes he may be the reason for Oheniel's obsessive behavior. Wish. As they leave the Grand Temple, she can't help but think how scary the bishop was. Looking out the window, she reflects that the tense atmosphere made her feel like she was being scolded too. Back in their room, she notices Oheniel is acting differently since their meeting, sitting silently without touching his food. She remembers their time in the temple, realizing her assumption about Oheniel's special bond with the bishop was wrong. The image of the imposing temple fills her thoughts again as she reflects on the bishop's scary demeanor. The camera lingers on the window, highlighting her contemplative mood after the tense encounter. Oheniel finally breaks the heavy silence by calling her name. Flinch. Startled, she glances at him, wondering why he looks so serious. He asks her to tell him what she wants, leaving her momentarily speechless and confused. Acknowledging his ineptitude after speaking with the bishop, Oheniel vows to be a better caregiver and asks again what she desires. Perk. Her interest is suddenly piqued by his offer to grant whatever she wants. She asks to leave, go out alone, not be watched, and not live there, but Oheniel flatly denies every single one of her requests. Slam. A furious Shelanne slams the table, demanding to know what she's supposed to do and telling Oheniel to give her the healing stone. Flap. She reaches for the healing stone in a chibi flashback, but in the present, Oheniel holds it and coolly asks what she'll do with it. Shelanne pauses, frantically running through simulations in her mind as Oheniel watches her. Plop, she slumps into a chair in defeat, realizing all her mental simulations have ended in failure. Groan. Oheniel explains he can't give her the temple treasure, but offers to help heal someone, causing her to agonize over being unable to reveal it's the Demon King. He continues his offer, asking her to think of something he hasn't been able to provide for her. Oheniel grows thoughtful, wondering why she keeps pushing away his kindness. Murmur. Shelanne looks away and quietly requests a doll. FWIP. He turns, surprised by her unexpected and simple request. She sits in her chair and clarifies that she wants a soft and furry doll. She imagines Carlton offering her a teddy bear and specifies she wants a large stuffed animal to hold while she sleeps. Beam. A small, gentle smile appears on Oheniel's face as he agrees to her request. Deb. Oheniel walks through the gleaming hall of the temple, lost in thought. Touched. He pauses, hand to his chest, feeling a strange and unfamiliar sensation. Jarus appears with an armful of stuffed animals for Shelanne, and Oheniel thinks to himself, speak of the devil. Oheniel flatly states he never wanted anything, needing only to eat, sleep, and train, which Jarus finds remarkable as Oheniel reaches for a bunny doll. Oheniel asks Jarus to teach him everything about raising a girl, while Jarus internally recalls the rumors that Oheniel was born without sympathy and called a monster. Oheniel completely misunderstands, asking if he should hug her before bed, forcing a confused Jarus to clarify she should hug the doll. Nod, Jarus thinks to himself that despite being emotionless, Oheniel is noble and merciful. He continues his internal praise, wondering how anyone could call him a monster when his concern for the child seems so genuine. Jarus, now holding a tray, appears utterly baffled, revealing his positive thoughts were just wishful thinking. Done. Jarus enters her room to find it completely changed, with Shelanne and Squishy enjoying the new decor. Oheniel explains he made some changes to the room in the hopes that Shelanne would like it. Teehee. As Shelanne happily rolls on the floor in a bunny suit, Oheniel considers replacing the carpet, and Jarus assumes there must be a reason for this. Slip. Oheniel removes his glove and warns Shelanne to bear with the pain as he begins cleansing her demonic energy. Shwoom. Ugh. The dark energy engulfs Shelanne as she winces in pain during the cleansing ritual. Clink. The demonic energy is successfully sealed into a container, and Oheniel announces that they are done. Wah! Shelanne sobs on the bed after the painful ordeal, as Jarus remarks that Oheniel is the only one unafraid of her energy. Oheniel tells a moody Shelanne it's time for bed, but she stubbornly refuses, insisting she's not sleepy. He pats her head and insists children must go to bed early, earning an annoyed tesk from her and a mew from Squishy. Shelanne reflects on Oheniel's strange new behavior, noting his sudden interest in her food, clothes, and comfort items. She wonders why he is suddenly acting so completely out of character. She remembers him holding her, internally panicking and wishing he would just go back to acting like his usual self. After tucking her in, Oheniel wishes her sweet dreams and surprises her by promising to take her outside on a public holiday. He gently strokes her head and asks if she doesn't want to go, and she pretends to be unimpressed while Jarus watches with concern. Oheniel proudly tells Jarus that his advice has worked wonders, improving their relationship and helping him fulfill his duties as a caregiver. Badum. His heart pounds as he realizes this feeling of success is even better than when he first raised Orsha. Oheniel again thanks Jarus for his help, while Jarus thinks Shelanne just looks like a cat reluctantly tolerating its owner. Jarus becomes flustered, confused about what advice Oheniel is referring to. Touched, Jarus realizes his small comments actually caused Oheniel to change, and is so moved he begins to cry. Halt. The next day, Jarus halts in his tracks as he enters Shelanne's room. Giggle. He sees her laughing and playing happily on the bed, just as a giant teddy bear tumbles off his own back. Jarus observes a very happy Shelanne and her new toys, thinking Oheniel might be spoiling her a little too much. He looks at the bed piled high with new toys and wonders if this situation is truly fine. Dazed and puzzled, Jarus concludes that at this rate, the captain might as well just rob an entire toy store for her. In the carriage, Shelanne notes the castle roads are cleaner than she expected, as Oheniel informs her they're heading east. Pout. She demands to see the royal lookout, but Oheniel refuses. She fumes, knowing she needs to see it to plan her escape. An evil grin spreads across her face as she resolves to learn the castle's layout to facilitate her future escape. Chirp. Swish. A mysterious cloaked figure with orange hair watches over the castle from a rooftop. The cloaked figure gazes wistfully, wondering if they will ever get to see her again. 6 months later, the bustling town around Hassinat Castle shimmers in the sunlight. Shout. A guard panics, announcing that Miss Shelanne has vanished and ordering the castle entrance barricaded. Dash as knights scramble to begin an emergency search. Oheniel orders the East Patrol to be notified. A holy knight addresses the townspeople, announcing a patrol is underway and asking for their cooperation. Glare. Oheniel fumes, realizing the cunning little witch escaped while he and Sir Jarus were away. The search intensifies as knights question townspeople, while a disguised Shelanne nervously hides nearby. Dash. A knight spots her and cries out her name in shock. The pursuit is on as knights are ordered to stop Shelanne at all costs. With grim determination, Shelanne vows to herself that she cannot be caught. Sprint. She races through the streets, knowing this chance to escape took her 6 long months to finally seize. Huff, pant. She pauses, thinking of her long purification and worrying about Carlton's well-being. In a flashback, Oheniel tells Jarus he is leaving for the border to use the healing stone for a mine accident. Stare. Recalling this, Shelanne realizes that, with the healing stone out of Oheniel's grasp, this is her chance. Shroom. The seal on her demonic energy glows with power. In the flashback, Shelanne asks Oheniel if he'll be gone long, surprising him with her question. Falter. She nervously claims she was just asking, as he explains he's fortified her seal and needs her to behave. He pats her head, and she deceptively agrees, secretly wishing he would never come back. Oheniel questions her strange expression, and she quickly covers by wishing him a safe return. Rattle. Back in the present escape, a maid struggles with a heavy tray, unaware that Shelanne is hiding underneath. Now free, Shelanne marvels that she got away but wonders how the Holy Knights found out so quickly. Swish. Peeking around a corner, she is startled by what she sees. The Knights are baffled, questioning how she could have disappeared when she was just there. A knight commands his men to keep searching, stressing that they cannot afford to lose her. Snap. A mysterious figure uses a spell, creating a diversion. Bedtime. Her heart pounds as she asks her rescuer who he is. He smiles and introduces himself as Brian. Shocked, Brian playfully asks if she's the rumored witch Shelanne, causing her to fume before he clarifies he knows she isn't one. Shelanne puts the pieces together, asking if he was the one who used magic that night. He confirms it, coyly suggesting their first encounter was a very romantic meeting. Bleg. He asks about the enchanted flower he gave her, but Shelanne is disgusted by his romantic fantasy. A romanticized flashback shows their silhouetted forms meeting under a crescent moon. Brian gushes that their meeting was fate, like a popular romance novel about an intruder. Chills. An unimpressed Shelanne realizes with a shudder that he's just a romance novel nut. Peek. She hides behind a pillar as the Knights give up their search in the area and move on. Swish. Brian takes her hand, urging her to follow him. As they run, Brian promises to help her get away from her pursuers. Step. He leads her through the city streets, vowing to help her escape. The scene transitions to an old, weathered neighborhood near Hassinat Castle. Shelanne is surprised to find such a desolate and poor area so close to the opulent castle. Brian shouts up at a window, calling for someone named Chagat to wake up. Fling a window flies open as an angry voice demands to know who interrupted his nap. A sleepy, annoyed man named Chagat leans out, asking Brian what he wants and threatening him for the disturbance. Brian urgently asks to use his road, while Shelanne wonders why someone is sleeping in the middle of the day. Scoff. Chagat mockingly asks if Brian is on a date, noting his girlfriend is a bit young. The word girlfriend catches Brian completely off guard. Squeeze. He unconsciously tightens his grip on Shelanne's hand. A flustered Shelanne can only manage a small, in response. Flinch. Realizing what he's done, Brian quickly lets go and apologizes. Hee. As a flustered Brian explains they were just in a hurry, Shelanne giggles, asking what's so wrong with holding hands. Brian daydreams about their wedding, asking Shelanne if she prefers lilies or roses for her bouquet, but she angrily tells him not to be ridiculous. Yell. Shout. Chagat angrily peeks out, furious at being woken up, while Brian and Shelanne insist they are not dating. Chagat warns them from a doorway that it looks dangerous outside today. Chagat explains he avoids complications, but Brian jokes that if caught, he'll just say he used a doggy door, irking Chagat, who corrects him that it's a hidden passageway. Shelanne is impressed by Brian's clever insult. Twinkle Sparkle Brian offers Shelanne his hand to help her with the stairs, but she's wary of his strange grin. Bleg. Dash. As they flee down a moonlit staircase, Shelanne recalls that this secret passage, unknown to the Knights, was built by House Chagat. Shelanne notes that Brian seems to come here often. While he likens both of them to birds in a cage, Brian explains that because they are both trapped, he wanted to show her the way to freedom. He announces their arrival, leaving Shelanne to ponder his bird in a cage comment. Creak. They emerge from a hidden exit into the woods outside Hassinat Castle and Brian cheers that they have made it. Shelanne joins in, and both celebrate finally being outside. Sparkle. Brian shows her his beautiful hideout, but reveals it's no longer safe, prompting a curious Shelanne to ask why. He explains that too many holy knights are near the Letamine, using the healing stone to treat casualties from an accident. Brian stops them at the edge of the forest, declaring they can go no further. He warns that the knights might spot them. Gulp. Shelanne realizes this must be where Jarus is with the healing stone. Brian reveals the healing stone is in the nearby barracks and asks Shelanne to be the lookout, shocking her as she realizes he's after it too. Whoosh, Brian casts the spell, and they both become invisible. Shelanne panics, knowing she needs to steal the healing stone, not just browse. Bustle, clamor. They observe a chaotic field hospital where people are desperate for bandages, and a woman prays for help. Swish. As they move through the camp invisibly, Brian wonders if the healing stone has been used yet, given the severity of the injuries. A little girl worries about her injured father, but her mother reassures her that the healing stone will make him better. Fwoom. The powerful healing stone glows brightly on its pedestal. Brian explains that with the knights busy maintaining the healing array, now is the perfect time to steal the stone. Hesitate. Shelanne reaches for the stone, knowing it could save Carlton, but finds herself pausing. Tingle. Tears welling in her eyes, she considers the fate of the injured people here if she takes the stone. Grab. Brian snatches the stone and urges her to leave, but she cries out in protest, now certain he was after it all along. Shh. Brian puts a finger to his lips, asking her to trust him and promising to explain later. Shocked. An alarm is raised as someone shouts that the healing stone has been stolen and knights are ordered to catch the thief. Smile. Walking away, Shelanne is disturbed by Brian's calm smile and wonders what is wrong with him. Sparkle, a flashback, reveals there are a total of 5 healing stones from the Hassinat temple. Twinkle, an ancient text, the Bible of Light, begins to tell the legend of the healing stones. A sacred white dragon once took pity on humans suffering from natural disasters. A single, glowing, tear-like stone is shown amidst swirling, dark energy. The narration explains the dragon used its own tears and blood to create the healing stones. Flash. When used, the stones are said to emit a light filled with tremendous vitality. The healing stone glows with a brilliant, holy light. As the light spreads, it miraculously heals all wounds. Back in the present, Brian asks Shelanne if she knows why the Holy Knights can't maintain a healing array with just one stone. Shwoom. He holds the stolen stone as it pulses with immense power. Pop! The stealth magic breaks, revealing them to the knights. A panicked Shelanne shouts that she doesn't know the answer. Gaia. The knights demand to know what she is doing there, as Shelanne furiously asks Brian why he dispelled their invisibility. Fwoom. Brian calmly explains that healing stones are activated by magic, surprising Shelanne. Shwoom. Whoosh. The stone's energy erupts outward in a massive wave. The magical energy expands from the duo in a chibi-style overview. Wish. A powerful gust of wind blasts the knights, forcing them to shield their eyes. Fwish. The powerful healing energy sweeps through the entire encampment. The little girl from before happily shouts that her daddy is awake, and her mother cries out in relief. The injured man sits up, amazed that all his pain is gone and his wounds have vanished, calling it a miracle.